I'm Kim Essendrup, co-host of the Project Management Happy Hour podcast and one of the founders of RAIDLOG.com. I've used RAIDLOGs for years to save broken projects and to keep my own projects from getting broken, and I'm really excited to see how other leaders use theirs. With me today to talk RAIDLOGs is Dr. Bill Brantley. Dr. Brantley is the President and Chief Learning Officer of Brantley Advanced Social Science Applications. He's a certified project management professional, an agile project manager, an accredited business analyst professional, and certified in disciplined agile project management. Dr. Brantley is also a certified professional in talent development, a certified professional in training management, and a certified data scientist. Dr. Brantley is an adjunct faculty member for the University of Louisville for 24 years now, and the University of Maryland for 13 years. He has created 12 online courses in project management communication, digital transformation, and no-code development with a global audience of over 20,000 students. And finally, he is the author of The Persuasive Project Manager, 4 Scenarios for the Future of the Federal Government, and Strategic Career Reinvention. We'll have links for all these in our show notes. His latest work is helping state and local governments effectively use artificial intelligence to train employees and deliver public services. Well, Bill, that's quite a resume. Thank you so much for joining us. What are you up to these days, other than what's in your resume, which I just shared?
Well, I am working more closely with artificial intelligence and project management and in training management, and the idea of putting it together with value chains and also agile project management. So kind of putting that together. And I'm working right now on a book chapter on leadership in the U.S. federal government. You know, the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey just came out, so I've been doing some deep dives into that. So that's some of the projects I'm working right now.
It's got to be exciting to be involved in AI at this stage because it's growing so fast. It's promises so much to organizations everywhere. Do you have a certain focus area?
Yeah, I've been looking more, because of course it's training and development. I've been looking more on skills development and developing people in the personnel, because one of the focus that I like to work with is kind of building hybrid teams, combining people with the AI tools and helping augment their skills. So kind of that how that synergy works.
Wow, I think we could do a whole episode just on that. But today we're going to focus on RAIDLOGs, if that's okay. And I guess my first question for you is, how did you first learn about RAIDLOGs?
I've told you this story before. And, you know, I'm a member of the Toronto Project Management Institute. And I remember they were advertising your talk about RAIDLOGs. And I thought, well, who wants to hear about redundant array of inexpensive disk? I mean, what am I going to learn from this? So I just went for the networking. And then when I heard what you were talking about, when you actually told me what the acronym meant, I was like, oh, okay. And then as I got into the talk, I thought, this is brilliant. I've never heard of this before. And I've been in project management for a while, so I kind of feel bad that I've never heard of RAIDLOGs. And this is what I love about, you know, having the Kindle. I'm not doing an advertisement for Amazon, but I love having the Kindle because I looked you up on there, found your book, and bought it while you were talking. And then I started skimming it. I thought, this is a great concept. So that's how I heard about it from you, actually.
That's funny. You're actually the first person we've had on this show that heard about it from me. So, well, thank you very much. Well, since then, have you had an opportunity to use a RAIDLOG? Have you seen it save a project or maybe help keep a project from getting into trouble?
Well, it saved a lot of my projects. And again, with training management, and at the time, I was working at the Patent and Trademark Office in the Enterprise Training Division. And, you know, with training management, I was doing some programs with Supervised Certificate. I was doing executive coaching, all these different things. So I started using the tool because it made a lot of sense. You know, the risks, the issues, the actions, decisions, and it gave me a good place to work with. And of course, when I took this with me, I had to make it in my own little thing. So I call it AIRD, AIRD. And that's because I want, you know, when I was putting it together with my folks that I was working on these programs with, I want to look at the actions we took, the issues, the risk, and the decisions. And yeah, but other than that, I took that and made that part of it. And your book is so wonderful on this, because you also talk about some other things you can add to the log, which helped me a great deal, because with training, just the logistics. I was working on the campus but the Patent and Trademark campus, which is like several different buildings, training rooms everywhere, instructors running around. So I had also, along with the the RAID part, my fact sheets where who was doing what, when they were doing it, what kind of resources I need. So it became like my little Bible that I would carry with me, turn it into a PDF, put on my Kindle. I carried it with me everywhere, and I can just instantly look up stuff. So I knew what actions we were taking, and also I can find people when I needed them. So it turned out to be a pretty nice little multi-value, multi-use tool.
That's pretty handy. It seems like it's a bit of a relief or a great tool to have with you when you're walking around to be able to easily refer to that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's great when you can just open it up and show people like, here's what we decided last week, and here's the issues we were talking about. What's changed with them? So it was really great for impromptu meetings with people. I mean, I used it for regular briefings, but also impromptu.
I imagine that helped probably develop a lot of trust and confidence in you as a project leader too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just became like my little second brain.
Excellent. Well, as good as they are, every tool has its drawbacks. So
hmm
I'm kind of curious to ask you, what has been your biggest pain point when using grade logs?
Well, this is why I like integrating the AI into this, so I can have it take my meeting notes and all this, because I get so caught up in the discussion, I forget to note things. And I forget to note what actions we took because we're just discussing things. And I'm the worst note taker a lot of times. So what I have now is the AI can listen. Like if we have it on Zoom or Otter or whatever, it can take my notes for me and I can drop that into the log later and make sure I'm keeping up. So, I mean, I would love to have, and I've seen some tools like this where I would like to see the RAID log be able to take its own notes for me and format them for me, but I don't know.
I don't want to spoil it, but we're working on that right now. So
Okay.
we'll
That'd
come
be
back to you
great.
in a little bit with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great. Because I mean, it would just be great to have a little log there, just sitting there listening and taking notes for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're on the topic of AI, and since this is certainly a field that you're really engaged in, I'm really curious to get your thoughts about how AI could potentially impact, or maybe is already impacting project management as a whole, and then maybe
hmm
also in particularly around RAID management.
Well, when I did a keynote at the University of Maryland. We just had a project management symposium a couple months ago, and I talked about AI. And my biggest thing as a project manager, we're getting hit with all these advertisements, all these tools and such. And I kept thinking, well, what's the best thing? So I decided to make an argument for it. And if you notice in the project management world, we're running more and more into the value that we're bringing. And you can see the shift in the project management body of knowledge and the whole idea of value chain, which I love a lot, the whole concept. So I look at AI because some of these value chains can get really complex. I worked in the Department of Defense. I worked in the Navy Inspector General's office. And you look at some of these value chains that just go into building stuff for the Navy, and it can get very complex, lots of contractors, all this stuff. So I see the AI as kind of helping us navigate that value stream. So it doesn't make decisions for us, but it does help us with the decision making so that the project manager can get that 10,000-foot view, and then the AI can jump into it and do the kind of navigating through the value stream and help pull the ideas together. And there's some companies doing it right now that is just doing some amazing work with the value value chain navigation, and even finding hidden value chains that we didn't even know were in part of those processes.
I love something you said there. If I could say it back, you said something along the lines of AI won't make the decisions for you, but can help you make good decisions. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, my biggest thing is, and I talked about this, and I did a presentation at the training industry conference in June about using value chain and AI and agile AI to help us, or agile project management, to help us understand what we're doing. So with AI, it's really good for doing what we call point solutions. So if you have something that you already got in place, it can make data decisions. It can compress the data, it can scan the data, it can visualize the data for you. It can give you a nice point solution. Okay. And I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday about robotic process automation, and she's learning all about that.
Right.
So the thing is, though, AI can't really step outside of a system. That's for people. People can step out of a system. So AI can do great things in a system for you, but you have to be the one thinking, do we need to do this with the system? Do we need another system? Do we need to kind of fix it out? And it kind of goes back to when I was a programmer myself. And like I told people, you got to get the process right, because if I just take the process and it's a bad process and I put it into code, all I'm going to do is make it faster and make worse decisions. Really, that's where I see the synergy of having AI. Once we figure out what our good process is in our value chain, then have it come in and help us do that part more effectively.
Sounds
Yeah.
like your classic garbage in, garbage out scenario.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's, and this is, and I mean, recently in the news, I loved hearing about this. So when you had the Google AI and it was kind of misfiring, so I was talking to you about, you should eat small rocks every day and you should put glue on your pizza. I mean, yeah, it doesn't understand. It doesn't have the context. It's not us. It's not like us. It doesn't understand outside the system. To it, there was some, it's been trained on the internet. There was some crazy parody blogs out there about cheese and pizza, and glue, and it took it as the gospel there. It just took it like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. So if you have trouble with pizza on your or cheese on your pizza, just glue it down.
So, other than not using AI for tips on your dietary
Mhm.
requirements, do you have any favorite tips or tricks for using a RAID log?
Well, like I said, I love using it for the training management and helping me keep the office, under control and basically dealing with the training decisions because there's a lot going on. And one of the things is capturing what our stakeholders want. And I think the best thing for me with it, with the training office, is the stakeholders showing them, okay, this is what we talked about last week and tracing what we've talked about and tracing the issues and actions that you worry about. And then I wrote another article because I've been in government for a while. I wrote an article about financial, budget analysis and all that kind of stuff. And I've done budgets. You've probably done budgets too. And nice thing about the RAID log is that we can get people around the table and say, okay, this is why we decided the budget was this way. This is what's changed. And we can see kind of an evolution here. So, like I said, it was more than just, capturing what I decided on, but more of a strategic framework. Why did we decide that way? Now we have a budget deficit. How do we make changes and how do we do it in a more effective way other than the favorite thing we like to do in government is everyone gets across the board 5% cut, whether it makes sense or not. We're just going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It kind of
so you
gives you a
have
little bit of something to fight back with.
a little more science there. So while we're talking about RAID logs in the government space, do you see a RAID log used very much in government just yet?
I've seen it adopted in several different places. I know some of my project management, comrades out there, like in Defense Department, they use it for stuff, and I've seen some folks in some of the civilian agencies. I don't think it's caught on as much as it should, and I don't know really why. I mean, again, like I said, I didn't learn about it until I talked to you last year, and then it's like, wow, this is such a brilliant tool, and it's such a kind of common sense tool. I don't see why more people aren't using it. But, I think I see people more and more adopting it.
Well, I hope so. In fact, I found out not too long ago that the origin of the RAID log is actually the original purpose was to track contractual assumptions, dependencies, risks, and issues between government agencies and contractors, because there's a
Hmm.
lot of that. The contracts are pretty significant, and it's not
Mm.
always easy to pull those things out of a document like that. So you pull
Yeah,
those out, put them into a RAID log where now the project team can track to them.
that makes a lot of sense because if you really trace it back to modern project management and you read a lot of these articles in Project Management Journal, it's like the Trident submarines when they were building those in the 50s. A lot of modern project management methods just came from that because the Trident submarines were just so complex. And then when we got into the space program, yeah, you just had to have a way to, it just overwhelmed the human mind and we had to have ways of tracking.
Well, hopefully we can take this video and share it with all of our project management colleagues in government sectors, and hopefully we can spread the good news of RAID logs.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's such a simple tool to get. I mean, shoot, you can do it on Excel spreadsheets, you can do it on Google Sheets. I mean, you can quickly draw one out on paper if you had to. I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
It's true. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. And as we wrap up, I wonder if you can tell our audience where they can learn more about all the cool things you're doing around training and AI and with government.
Hmm.
How should they reach out to you?
Well, the best way to reach out to me, LinkedIn, like you do. So I have a presence on LinkedIn. I have my Training Trailblazer newsletter. And then I have my own site, my Brantley Advanced Social Sciences Applications.com, which is basically, I abbreviate it BAS2A.com. And I pronounce it like BASA because it sounds like NASA. So BAS2A.com. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff I do on there. It's my portfolio. Yeah, and just you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And then I have my official address. It's Bill at BASA office. So all one word, BAS2A office.com. Yeah, and just follow up with me. But yeah, I love to talk to folks.
And we'll have all those links in your email in the show notes.
Cool.
Well, thank you again so much for taking time to join us today and showing us your RAID log.
Great. Yeah. Appreciate the opportunity. So, one to know is when we're going to talk about redundant array of inexpensive disk. I mean, that's what I came for.
Well, actually, do you know why the RAID log thinks the RAID array is a stalker?
Why?
Because it's always trying to mirror its every move.
Oh, God.
Wait, one more. Why did the RAID array invite the RAID log to its party?
Okay, why?
Because it heard the log was great at discussing all kinds of issues.
Man, these are such geeky jokes.
Oh, they're great. Well, thanks again. And for our audience, if you'd like to step up your project management game or even hear some more really bad jokes, you can check out our new RAIDLOG application at raidlog.com. We're bringing the tried and true RAIDLOG into the 21st century with the only platform totally dedicated to giving project managers the tools that they need to succeed in project delivery, starting with the RAIDLOG. So come check us out at raidlog.com.